In the mouth of the Thames estuary, between two major shipping channels, lies a shipwreck with the potential to cause one of the largest non-nuclear explosions in history. Containing around 1,500 tons of World War II munitions, it's claimed that the resultant blast would throw a 1,000-foot column of water and debris nearly 2 miles into the air, as well as a 5-metre tidal wave that would race up the Thames towards central London, less than 40 miles away. I'm talking, of course, about the wreck of the SS Richard Montgomery. Back in World War II, cargo ships were used to transport supplies of food, troops and munitions across the Atlantic. Unlike their heavily armed naval counterparts, however, they found they were easy targets for the U-boats. The continuous loss of vessels combined with the need to supply the war effort resulted in the design of a low-cost mass-produced class of ship, the Liberty ship. Between 1941 and 1945, 2,710 of them were built, an average of one new ship every 16 hours. They were 135 metres or 441.5 feet in length, with a gross tonnage of 7,176 tonnes and a maximum displacement of nearly 15,000 tonnes. Their beauty was in their simplicity, with a single steam engine driving a single propeller and 5 large cargo holds separated vertically by tween decks. On the 15th of March 1943, in Jacksonville, Florida, construction started on one of these ships, which would go on to be named the SS Richard Montgomery. Just 136 days later, she was complete and handed over to the Atlantic, Gulf and West Indies Steamshipping Corporation. Over the following year, she completed numerous successful passages across the Atlantic until beginning her final voyage in August 1944. Before we get to that though, let me take a moment to thank this episode's sponsor, CuriosityStream, a subscription streaming service offering thousands of documentaries and non-fiction titles from some of the world's best filmmakers, including exclusive originals. CuriosityStream is extremely affordable at under $20 a year, that's only $1.67 per month. With content spanning science, nature, history, technology, music and sports, you're sure to find something you'll love. For example, I've been watching their 3-part documentary series, Ships That Changed the World, which focuses on the Titanic, the Bismarck and the Canberra, although they cover loads more within the episodes themselves. CuriosityStream is available worldwide on many of the most popular platforms: the web app, Roku, Android, Xbox One, smart TVs, iOS, Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Amazon Kindle and Apple TV. Go to curiositystream.com/casual for unlimited access to the world's top documentaries and non-fiction series, and for our subscribers, use the promotional code CASUAL and you'll save 25% off, which comes out to only $14.99 a year. So use my link in the description, curiositystream.com/casual, with the code CASUAL and save 25% right now. That's only $14.99 for the whole year, or just $125 a month. Anyway, we were diving into the history of another ship, the Richard Montgomery, who was just beginning her final voyage in August 1944. She departed Hog Island, Philadelphia, with nearly 7,000 tons of munitions, ultimately destined for Cherbourg in France. As the final leg of the journey required the formation of a convoy, Richard Montgomery first called in at the Thames estuary, where she was attacked by German aircraft. After the attack, she was towed in and anchored in Great Nore anchorage under the direction of Thames Naval Control. On the 20th of August, lookouts on other vessels spotted the Montgomery dragging anchor and tried to alert her crew. Unfortunately, the warnings went unheard and she soon ran aground approximately 250 metres from the Medway approach channel. Over the following hours, the tide dropped away, leaving the Montgomery exposed high on the sandbank. Without the support of water around the hull, she ended up breaking her back, literally cracking in half. There was no way she was getting off the bank. Within days, the salvage operation began, using the ship's own gear to start emptying the cargo. It continued for over a month, until being abandoned on the 25th of September. The thing is, there was still cargo on board, inaccessible due to the flooding. I guess they did plan to come back and finish the job when the war died down, but of course, we know that nearly 80 years later, the ship and her remaining cargo of almost 1,500 tons of high explosives is still there. We said at the beginning of the video that there are enough explosives to potentially result in a blast, throwing a 1,000-foot column of water and debris nearly 2 miles into the sky, as well as sending a 5-metre tidal wave into the heart of one of the world's most populous cities. So, why has nothing been done? Well, actually, there are measures in place. If you check out any nautical chart, you'll see that the wreck is clearly marked with special marks on its northern, eastern, southern and western extents. The area enclosed is legally protected and entry forbidden. There are signs on the exposed masts telling everyone to stay away, and the entire site is under the surveillance of the local port authority, who keep a continuous radar watch. The general consensus is that at the moment, doing nothing is less risky than trying to do something. You see, back in 1967, there was another wreck, the Kiels. Like the Montgomery, she sank during the war with a highly explosive cargo on board and was left untouched for decades. While attempting salvage, the cargo on board the Kiels detonated, resulting in a blast that was picked up by seismic detectors as much as 5,000 miles away, registering the equivalent of a magnitude 4.5 earthquake on the Richter scale. The thing is, the Kiels was much further away from land with a fraction of the cargo that the Montgomery still holds. It's seen as a warning of the potential danger of trying to remove ordnance from the wreck. So, what's the harm in leaving it where it is? After all, in the 80-ish years since the Montgomery went down, nothing has happened. The TNT in the explosives is actually quite stable, especially when stored at low temperatures, such as it is while submerged in the River Thames. There are unknowns such as the state of the fuses and some of the other explosives, but generally, the feeling is that if it stays submerged in a stable environment, it should remain safe. Of course, that stable environment is not guaranteed forever. Over time, the hull will disintegrate. In fact, in 2001, the UK's Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, who undertakes surveys to monitor the wreck's condition, concluded that doing nothing is not an option for much longer. That was 20 years ago, but now, finally things are starting to happen. In the next month or so, work is due to start on lowering the height of the masts to reduce the stress on the underlying hull, which should, in turn, reduce the risks posed by leaving the wreck where it is. It's all part of the risk seesaw that has been and will continue to go on. On one side, you have the risks associated with doing nothing, a spontaneous explosion caused by the collapse of the hull or collision with another vessel and things like that. On the other side, you have the risks associated with a full salvage, such as the operation attempted on the Kiels in 1967. As time passes, the balance of risk changes. For example, the risk that a falling mast may detonate the ship has increased to such an extent that it now outweighs the risk of removing them. In time, we'll start to get additional risks, such as the wreck actually breaking up and the munitions starting to spread. They could be carried by the river currents onto beaches where there is then the danger of spontaneous explosion as they dry out. You can, of course, continue to manage each additional risk as it comes up, but eventually there might come a time when the least risky option is the full salvage. I think that then, and only then, will it be considered. But what do you think? I'm guessing most of you didn't even realise it was there.